Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to be doing a review of the Face Atelier Ultra Foundation. This is going to be a very positive review. I've had this foundation in my kit for what feels like a million years. I'm going to try to jam in a lot of information about this product into this video. I will time code everything for you in the description, so if you want to jump ahead to a certain point or if you want to come back for reference, all of that will be there. And of course I will link you to Face Atelier's website and everything I mention in this video. Face Atelier is a Canadian company. They are cruelty-free. They also offer a few different discount programs on their site that you can apply for. They have a preferred pro program for makeup artists, and I think that gives you about 40% off if I'm not mistaken. They also have a discount program for students, and they have something called an industry discount program. So if you are a model, an actor, someone that is on camera, there is something there for you as well to get a discount on the Face Atelier products. Let's talk about product size. So there's two sizes that you can purchase this foundation in. This is the Face Atelier Ultra Foundation Pro size, which is a 20 milliliter size, and this retails for $37 Canadian. There is also a 30 ml size, which is a bigger container, and that retails for $55 Canadian. The other options that Face Atelier offers for you for purchase on their site, you can purchase all the shades of this foundation and all of the adjusters, and I think there's 19 in total, and the cost of that is $599 retail. They also sell a set of this foundation in just the deeper shades and a few adjusters, so you get 4 shades of foundation and 3 adjusters. The price on that is $229 retail, and that's Canadian dollars. They also sell a set that is just the adjuster shades in this pro size. There are 5 adjusters in that set, and that set retails at about $169 Canadian. You can also purchase samples for $1 from the Face Atelier website, which is very helpful when you're deciding what shades of foundation to pick out. I've taken advantage of this for myself in the past. If I'm not sure if I want to add a shade or not, I will maybe order 1 or 2 samples of that foundation to see if it's something that actually works for me. It's a great way to just try things, not spend as much money, and it also helps with better decision making when it comes to what foundations you want to add into your kit. And later on in this video, I will talk to you about what my most used shades of foundation are so that you can have some guidelines as to what you might want to add to your kit. Some product features and benefits. So this foundation is a silicone-based foundation. It's also oil and fragrance free. There are huge advantages to having silicones in foundation, primarily because the molecular structure of silicones, not to get into too much detail, are larger and they're more spaced out. So when you use a silicone-based foundations, there's a lot of advantages to having this ingredient in there. Firstly, because of that molecular structure, the foundation is less likely to settle in pores, settle in fine lines, settle around texture, and it creates almost this filtered effect on the skin. You're not going to have that cracking. You're going to have a foundation that is very lightweight, that's very breathable. It also creates a really nice barrier for those people that have sensitive skin to lock in hydration, to protect their skin from any elements. So there's so many advantages to having this ingredient. Silicones are also naturally moisture, heat, and sebum repellent, so you can imagine how beneficial that is going to be to have in a foundation in your kit, especially for situations where you're dealing with the elements, you're dealing with hotter climates, sweating, crying. For those of you that like to use primer when you work with your foundations, because this is a silicone-based foundation, you don't need to do that added step. You can if you like, but it's not necessary. Things can go a little bit faster with your makeup application, and you're gonna get that really flawless application without having that extra step of adding a primer beforehand. The finish of this foundation is extremely dewy on the skin. It's really beautiful. There's a lot of glow that comes with this foundation application, but I find this glow can be easily controlled by setting spray, by setting powder, either loose or pressed. And I'll talk to you more about some of the application techniques and products that I like to use with this foundation. You will have that dewy finish with this product for sure, but you can easily control this if you like, or you can just let it sit on the skin. The other great thing about this foundation is that it is self-setting, so powder isn't required. With some brands, they make this claim with their foundations, and I find there's still a lot of movement with certain products, but with Face Atelier, when they say their product is self-setting, I definitely agree with this. The other thing with the self-setting foundation and with the Face Atelier Ultra Foundation in particular is that it's a buildable coverage. You can work with that self-setting property of the foundation to create a customized coverage for your client. This foundation is very highly pigmented. It's very long wearing. You do not need a lot for a foundation application. It's very fluid. I mentioned this just a few seconds ago, but this product is really, really lightweight. This is one of the things my clients give me feedback on all the time, quite regularly when I use this foundation, how lightweight it is. Even when I'm doing a fuller coverage foundation application, when my clients see their face with this on, they can't believe that it feels so light with the amount of coverage that you can get. So we'll go through more application techniques in just a minute. When you go on to that Face Atelier website, there is extensive information about the different silicones they use, the application process. That site is jam-packed with stuff that you can look at. The other thing they do mention about this foundation is that it's non-comedogenic. Now just remember, you're always going to be giving your clients and talent guidelines as to how to properly remove their makeup. I always recommend like a 2-step cleansing system. I mentioned this in some of my other review videos for my clients, especially if they're not accustomed to wearing makeup regularly. Just ensures that they're not going to have any breakout or anything that could go wrong if they don't remove their makeup correctly. So remember to do that. The expiry after opening on this is 9 months. So make a note of that if you are going to be adding this to your kit or if you're using it personally. It's very important to make note of these dates to make sure that you are cycling product through your kit regularly. We want to offer the most hygienic makeup application to our clients, and that means having products in our kit that are not expired. Taking note of these dates as well just keeps you kind of focused on what you need to use up so you don't let anything go to waste. And if you have a lot of product in your kit that is about to be expired soon, you know you have to use that, so you won't waste any money buying more product, and you also won't hoard a lot of product in your kit that you never get to using. So we should always try to be less wasteful, and then of course abide by those expiry dates. I want to talk a bit about the packaging and how to work with this hygienically in your kit. Face Atelier has done an amazing job at sizing this foundation and offering it in a pump. The pump is very hygienic to work with in your kit. The 20 milliliter size is the pro size. You can keep this in your kit. It's not that big. For those of you that think that maybe 20 milliliters is not enough, believe me, this can last you quite some time. Again, remember the foundation is very lightweight, very fluid, and very pigmented, so you don't need a lot. Having it in a pump form is just bonus for hygiene, so you don't need to depot this if you don't want to. If you feel like this is a good size for your kit, you can leave it as is. To use this hygienically on your station when you're doing makeup applications, I'm sure you know what I'm going to say. You can use your stainless steel palette, which is cleaned and disinfected before use. If you're using the back of your hand as your palette, you're going to wash your hands properly with soap and water, and then you're going to use an adhesive hand palette on the back, and you're going to put the foundation on top of that adhesive hand palette. You're going to pump foundation onto your palette. Remember, the spout of the pump is never going to touch your hand. It's not going to touch your stainless steel palette. It's also not going to touch your brush. When you set this back down on your station after you've pumped out the product, just pop that lid on. You want to make sure that the pump does not get contaminated on your station. You can take your brush, grab some foundation off your palette, go onto your skin, and go back and forth as you need it. If you need to add more, you can just go back to the same thing, pump this out onto your palette, put your lid back on, and then continue with your makeup application. And in between your clients, you're going to clean and disinfect the pump, the lid, and the packaging before you move on to somebody else. So very easy to work with this hygienically. Another option, if you do want to downsize further, but you want to have a container that you can work with hygienically, are these tiny dropper bottles. This is actually a 5 milliliter dropper size from Qosmedix. I'll show you how they compare. 5 milliliters in here is more than enough. You can easily probably do anywhere from like 3 to 6 faces with a 5 milliliter size, depending on how much you're using. These bottles you can just squeeze and then drop onto your palette. The other benefit of putting it into a dropper bottle, if you're someone that airbrushes, Face Atelier has a product called Ultra Air that you can use to push the Ultra Foundation through an airbrush. I am moving into the direction of airbrushing. I know I said it would take a lot to get me airbrushing again, but I mentioned on my social media last week that I am moving in that direction. Having the Face Atelier Ultra Foundation, which I will be using with an airbrush, it will be easier to put this into the airbrush with this type of applicator. And again, you want to just have very minimal contact with where the product is actually coming out of the packaging, and having it in just a non-porous container like this makes it very easy to clean and disinfect in between your clients. So this is another option for you. I go back and forth with the packaging of this in my kit. Sometimes I'll just throw this in if I know I'm doing a larger number number of people and I don't want to worry about anything running out. If I'm just bringing a bunch of stuff with me, I'll take the smaller size. And then I've also depotted these into an airless pump, about a 10 mil or 15 mil size. And that option has been helpful as well. So whatever you think is going to work for you, make your life easier in terms of how much you're carrying, make things really hygienic for your application. You can choose how you want to depot, or if not at all, the 20 milliliter size is still very small and compact. In terms of the types of jobs I use this foundation for, because I've been working with this foundation for so long, I can confidently tell you any job that you've seen me post about or I've talked about doing, I have probably used Face Atelier foundation more than once. There isn't a situation that I can think of where I wouldn't use this foundation in terms of how this foundation performs on the job, how it looks on camera. There's just a lot of advantages to having this in your kit. I do not say this often, but I think for bridal specifically, Face Atelier is one of my favorite foundations to use, and there's just a number of reasons why. Primarily the ingredients, because it's oil-free, because it's fragrance-free, and because of how it looks and feels on the skin. It's ideal for people who don't wear a lot of makeup or who are not accustomed to having their makeup done often, and that is a lot of my bridal clients. Plus, in addition to that, I get a product that is very long-wearing, that is great in humidity, in warmer climates. If you're crying, if you're sweating, the foundation I know is not going to budge, it's not going to streak, it's not going to move anywhere. For bridal, considering the long days, considering the elements that a lot of your bridal clients are going to be in, this takes away a lot of that worry about, is it going to last? Is it still going to look good at the end of the day? And that's why I think this is one of my favorite foundations to work with. The other great thing about this foundation for any job is that, of course, it looks beautiful on the skin. Of course, you get that filtered effect. It fills in those pores. It's amazing on textured skin. But when you see it on camera, that effect, that filtered effect, is even more magnified. So when people sit in your chair and they're like, I need you to take 10 years off. In person, you can probably take a good 3 to 5 years off with Face Atelier foundation. But when they see their skin on camera, they're gonna get those 10 years off. It's just a product that photographs beautifully. So for those of you that are working with bridal clients, think about this. For beauty shoots, especially those of you who are really wanting to focus on beauty work or macro beauty work, this foundation photographs like a second skin. It's phenomenal. It doesn't need to be set with powder, which is great when you're shooting beauty shots that are very close up. Sometimes that powder can create a very dry look on the skin. You don't get that healthy glow. And again, just the way this product is made, having that silicone base, it's phenomenal on camera. There are some products out there that make you look bad when you're on the job. They either don't work right, they dry out quickly, they just don't apply properly. But the Face Atelier foundation is something that is going to make you look really good when you are out there working with your clients. The results are quite beautiful. The finish on the skin is amazing, and it looks fantastic on camera. One other situation that I love this foundation for is male grooming. I don't need to use a lot of this foundation on a lot of my male talent. It's just a foundation that I can use to give a little bit of coverage to even out the skin, but to put something on their skin that is lightweight and looks very healthy on camera, which is ideal. Sometimes for male grooming, we tend to go towards more powder products, and I do this too sometimes. Sometimes there's a time constraint. Sometimes it's just easier and faster to do that. And sometimes you just need to get something on there to take down shine, and we're dealing with a few other things. But if you have a little bit of time with your male talent and you want to have that really natural skin look on camera and even out some spots and some redness and some discoloration, think about reaching for the Face Atelier foundation because it does work very well on male talent. Skin types that I would use this on, I use this on every single skin type. I had a lot of questions about skin prep for this product, so we'll move on to that now. But in terms of skin type, provided the skin prep is appropriate to your client's skin type, you can use this foundation on any skin type that you like. In terms of skin prep, the only thing I would really avoid with this foundation is something that is very oily on the skin, or that is an oil-based primer, an oil-based skin treatment. Oil and makeup just generally are not good together with any foundation in any situation. Although during the initial application of whatever makeup you're using over someone's skin that has been prepped with an oil, it does seem very fluid and it looks great on the skin. This addition of oil on the skin really cuts down on the longevity of the foundation, and it will cause the foundation to separate and move around. Silicone and oil are just not friends. Makeup and oil in general, for the most part, are just not good friends either, so try to avoid that. I did get a lot of questions about using this foundation on oily skin and if this is an appropriate foundation to use on oily skin. You can definitely use the Face Atelier Ultra Foundation on oily skin, but there's a few things that you have to remember specifically with oily skin when you're using it with any foundation. I covered already that oil and makeup don't mix very well together. It just creates problems with the wear and longevity of the foundation over time. So regardless of what foundation you're using, you want to make sure that you are controlling that oil so you get the most longevity and the best wear out of the foundations that you're using. And you need to have appropriate skin prep products in your kit to do this. And I will list a few of the ones that I like to use for very oily skin in the description. I'm sure you're going to know what they are because it's the same ones I use all the time. Just because this foundation does have a very dewy finish on the skin, it doesn't mean that it's making oily skin worse. It's just really more of an appearance thing on the surface of the skin. Silicones naturally absorb oil on the skin, so you are going to get some oil control. It's likely not going to be enough for someone that's fully oily, so you do want to make sure you're controlling that. The other thing you have to consider with using this foundation on oily skin is that if your client sits in your chair and they're very self-conscious about shine, when you use the Face Atelier foundation, even though it's probably going to give them a beautiful finish, if they're sensitive to having something very dewy and glowy on their skin, you're going to have to work very hard if you use this to make sure you are controlling that. And sometimes that can create more problems for you in the long run, and you may just want to start with something that's very matte instead. It's just going to make your clients feel better about their makeup application. There is one product that I want to make mention of that Face Atelier has that works very well with their foundation and very well on combination or oily skin, and it's called Ultra Matte. This is a silicone-based mattifying spray. The spray from this, I won't spray it because it's such a fine mist. It gives you very good coverage on the face, and you can use this before, during, and after your makeup applications. This though is not a setting spray, so I don't want to confuse you. It's specifically to control oil and shine on the skin. And because this is silicone based, when you use this, it's going to work well with the foundation, and it's also naturally going to be heat resistant, water resistant, sweat resistant. So you have that added insurance when you're introducing another product onto those normal to combination or oily skin types. For more information about this, I will link you to the specific product on the Face Atelier website so you can check it out, but it's very handy to have in your kit as well. And if you're not sure what to use to work with this foundation, you can start with something like that. To prep other skin types for the application of this foundation, it goes really well over pretty much everything else, over sunscreens, over other skin prep. Just always give your skin prep or any sunscreen that you're using time to sink in and be absorbed by the skin. The more stuff you have floating around or sitting on top of the surface of the skin, the higher chance you're going to have of that foundation really just not quite performing as well as it would if you let that skin prep sink in. And as far as oxidation goes, I always get a lot of questions about oxidation when it comes to different foundations. I know there are some that like right out of the jar or the tube, they start to change color on the skin. Oxidation is, of course, as you know, a chemical reaction, and it can be caused by so many things, and it's not often predictable. People with really oily skin, that oil on the surface of the skin can cause that chemical reaction and cause things to start to change color or deepen in color. Another reason to make sure you are prepping your combination and oily skin types properly. I have not noticed oxidation with this foundation. I find because it is so pigmented, when I apply this onto my client's skin, the color that it is when it is applied to the skin stays like that for the duration of the time that they have the foundation on their skin. And even on myself, when I'm wearing this foundation, I'm wearing the Face Atelier foundation today in this video, I don't find it changes color or oxidizes at all on my skin, and I'm a combination skin. This is not to say that it won't occur, because it's something that we can't sometimes predict. I haven't had that experience, and I've been using this for quite some time, and I'll share with you all of my skin prep as well. So if you're maybe struggling with that, or you find that maybe a skin prep product that you have might be changing the color of the foundation, you can try something different. And if you do want to use the primer on this, always try like with like, and you can try another silicone based primer if you need. Just be cautious and try a few things out. I always encourage you to try things on yourself before you try them on your clients, as long as you're proceeding in a hygienic way and you're doing the right things in terms of how you're handling the products, washing your hands before, that type of thing. And this is a quick way to figure out what is going to work for you based on your application style and the products that you have in your kit. I want to go over some application tips and tricks, how I like to apply this foundation. The first most obvious thing that I need to remind you to do with this foundation before you apply it is shake the foundation. This foundation does separate if it sits on your station or in your kit for any length of time. So just get into the habit of of really shaking it regardless of what packaging it's in before you apply this to your client's skin. And also get into the habit of kind of giving it a shake even between your clients if you're working with a number of clients on one job. Just always give it a quick shake before you start to use it. You can apply this product with a natural brush, a synthetic brush. I also like to use a blending sponge. So if you have a beauty blender or just a sponge wedge, the product applies very well with a stippling motion with a sponge. Remember, in our kits, sponges are one-time use disposable items, but sponge wedges do a good job with applying this as well. And the best way to use the sponge is just to dampen it beforehand. And I think you will find you will get a beautiful finish with the Face Atelier Ultra Foundation when it is applied with the sponge. The brushes that I have used with this foundation that I really like, this is the Smith 115. Now remember, with the natural bristle brushes, this one is a hybrid natural synthetic if I'm not mistaken. The natural bristles, because the foundation is so fluid and lightweight, you're going to find it's going to absorb a lot of the product, so you have to move quickly if you're using something natural. If you are using a synthetic brush, this is the Real Techniques setting brush. This is the Real Techniques Expert Face brush. These kind of buffing brushes are really great for this foundation, and then I would use something like this setting brush just for those smaller areas. You'll find that the product does not get absorbed into the brush as fast with a synthetic brush. So synthetic buffing brush and a sponge, I will say, are actually my two favorite methods of application for this foundation. In order to get fuller coverage for this foundation, I actually will mix my application techniques. So I'll start by buffing the foundation onto the skin with a brush, and then I'll go in with a damp sponge and I will stipple on foundation where I need more coverage. And this is such an efficient way to get more coverage. It just blends beautifully on the skin. It gives you coverage without looking too heavy. The secret to building coverage with this foundation is to actually letting each layer of foundation have a chance to set before you start building it up. I know we're always moving very quickly under pressure and people just think that if you put on more at once, it's going to give you fuller coverage. But with this, the best technique to build that coverage is to let the foundation set, see how it looks, and then go ahead and add more coverage by either stippling on another layer of foundation or buffing on another layer of foundation. Face Atelier also makes a really beautiful concealer that is silicone based, and you can target areas that need more coverage with that over top once you've given that initial layer time to set. And you don't need to powder in between these layers either. So that's how I get it to be fuller coverage. For a lighter coverage, for me, the trick is to just really buff in this foundation into the skin, and I find that kind of thins out the coverage. If you're looking for something to actually physically thin out the foundation more, you can use the Ultra Air product that Face Atelier makes. It's another silicone-based product, and that will thin out the product. You need to thin out the foundation to push it through an airbrush, so you can use that mixing medium to thin out the foundation for application if you like. They also make another complexion product called Ultra Skin, which is a very lightweight coverage, really nice product as well. Smaller shade range in that line of foundation from Face Atelier, but it's something that you can definitely check out. If you're the type of artist that just likes to have different textures already in your kit where you don't have to mix, you can look at Ultra Skin. And the two Ultra Foundation and Ultra Skin also mix really well together, so that's something else to consider. I also got asked a lot of questions about other foundations that mix well with this one. So obviously we talked about this in some other videos. So any other silicone-based foundations are going to be great with this one. A personal favorite of mine that I like to mix with this is MAC Face and Body. The two mix very well together. They're both self-setting foundations. If you're looking to lighten up the texture of this foundation, you can mix in some MAC Face and Body. If you need to color adjust in any way, there are certain undertones of skin where the range of Face Atelier is not going to quite cover certain skin tones, so you may need to mix just to get that right tone. That's where I find I do a lot of my mixing. I have mixed this with RCMA, but remember, the base ingredients of RCMA and Face Atelier are not great together. One, Face Atelier is self-setting. Two, RCMA is not, so that's one way you can remember it. And then just the chemistry of the two products more specifically, not great together, but I find just to color adjust, I may occasionally mix it in. I find mixing with RCMA just kind of takes away some of the luster of this foundation, and there is some separation over time with that. So I try not to mix this with anything that's not not silicone based, so when I am mixing MAC face and body. Products that I've used to set this when I am setting it with powder. Face Atelier has a pressed powder and loose powder. Both of these types of powders are available in a nice shade range, so that works very well with this. When we're working with products within the same brand family, they generally work very well together. So if you don't want to take a risk by introducing some other types of products into your kit and you want to stay with Face Atelier, you can look at their loose and pressed powders. RCMA no color powder is great over this. Derma Blends loose powder is really great. I am wearing the Face Atelier foundation today and I set it with the Derma Blend loose powder. Works very well. Laura Mercier is another one I use often with this. Just remember the powders that you see that are pigmented, there is a chance that they can get cakey if you use too much powder. You'll hear me say in these videos, pigment over pigment can cause caking, and we really don't want this with this foundation because it has naturally such a beautiful finish. MAC blot powder is another one that's great with this foundation, works very well. It's another pressed powder that I use on myself as well, especially in the summertime. Those are ones that I've used that I find work well with this foundation, and I will provide the list for you of these products in the description. And this product works really great with setting sprays, especially the Skindinavia is the one that I love, which is the same thing as the Urban Decay one. Also works well with Cinema Secrets. I'm going to flip the camera over to tabletop. We're going to swatch all of the foundations in this range and the adjusters so you can take a look at them. Before I show you swatches of all the shades of the Face Atelier foundation, I just want to show you what the texture and finish looks like. So remember to shake when you're applying this. This is number 6. So I'm just going to apply some on my arm so you can see what the finish is, what it looks like. I mentioned this foundation buffs out very easily. You can see a little goes a long way with the foundation itself. That should give you just an idea of the finish, and then this takes just a few seconds to set, and then you can go back in and apply another coat, stipple on some more, or buff on some more foundation if you like. I'm going to swatch the shade range just on my arm here so you can get an idea of the undertones and how deep or light these shades in the foundation range are. So I'll walk you through each shade. I'll give you the number, the name, and the undertone of the foundation that you're seeing. This is shade 0.5 in Pearl. This is a neutral undertone. This is shade number 1 in Porcelain. This one has a yellow undertone. Shade number 2 in Ivory is a neutral undertone with just a bit of yellow. So it's a neutral yellow undertone foundation. Shade number 3 is called Wheat. This is another yellow undertone foundation. And number 4 is called Sand. Again, another yellow undertone foundation. In terms of the shades that I use out of these swatches, 0.5, number 1, and 3 are some of my most used shades. Shade number 5 is called Sepia. This is a yellow undertone foundation. Shade number 6 is called Honey, and now we're starting to move into more yellowy olive undertone foundations, or golden olive. So number 6 falls under that category. Shade number 7 is called Tan. This is a golden olive undertone foundation. Shade number 8 is called Caramel, so golden olive as well. And this is shade 8.5 called Suede, just a little bit darker than number 8, also golden olive undertone. The shades that I use mostly in this range are shades number 6, 7, and 8. And then hopefully in this range you can also see that we go from yellow to, we're starting to get into more of that kind of cooler undertone. When we're talking about golden olive undertone foundations, that goldeny color starts to cool off with a little bit of that olive in there. So I hope you can see that with these swatches. This is shade number 9 in Toffee, and you can see this has more of a red undertone. Shade 10 is Cocoa. This is again a deeper golden olive undertone foundation. This is shade number 11 in Mink. This color is really interesting to me because you can see it's a bit warmer. It's not quite red. It kind of floats between being in between a yellow and red undertone foundation. This is shade 12 in Sable. This is actually, you can see between 11 and 12. This is a bit cooler compared to number 11. So this I find actually can work on those kind of more deeper golden olive undertones. And sometimes if you have someone that's just a bit warmer than a deep golden olive, this will work as well. These are all the adjusters that Face Atelier sells, and I would definitely consider purchasing all of these if you're going to be working with the Face Atelier foundation. You saw in the range that I swatched that this foundation is very heavy on the yellow undertone and that golden olivey undertone foundation. As we get into the deeper foundation shades, there are some that are warmer, but you are going to need to do some color adjusting to make sure you can accommodate every skin tone. And you're also going to want to think about lightening and deepening the shade range that I showed you. On the fair end, you're going to need something to lighten for sure. And as you get to the deeper shades, you are also going to need something to deepen so you get a more comprehensive shade range with the Face Atelier Ultra Foundations. These two you've already seen in some of my other videos, so Blaze and Heat. Blaze being a yellow adjuster, Heat being more of a mango red adjuster, and I talked about these in my color adjusting video. Blaze and Heat, these are going to be great if you are color adjusting those medium to deeper undertone foundations. I talked to you about this in my previous color adjusting video. You want to make sure that the adjusters that you're using are similar in value to the foundations that you're mixing them into. So these are a bit deeper, so they will work better with medium to deep foundation. This is shade 0 minus. I love this for lightening up foundations. I would use this with shades 0.5 to 6 in the Face Atelier Ultra Foundation range. If you're lightening deeper foundations, my preference is to just use a lighter foundation that is the same undertone and not necessarily mix in white, because it can gray down those medium to deep foundations. This is 0 plus. This is a warm brown adjuster. You can also use this as just a foundation. I've done that many times. It's a really beautiful warm undertone, and you can use this to deepen foundations or lighten some of your deeper foundations as well. And 0 plus plus, a definite must have. I've used this as foundation as well. This is a black brown adjuster, and the undertone of this adjuster is more blue black, so it's cooler to neutral undertone. So this is going to be very valuable when you are working with deeper skin tones, or if you need to deepen up some of those deeper undertone foundations, and also great to color adjust if you need something that's cooler, more neutral. I also wanted to show you these. These are the Face Atelier Skin Perfect Color Corrector. You've seen these ones in some of my other videos. I just wanted to point them out again. These, you can see they're very fair, but they will work to color adjust those lighter foundations in the Face Atelier range. If you are interested in purchasing the Face Atelier foundation, I would really recommend getting all of these adjusters so you can really flesh out that shade range and you can have more options for lighter or darker shades. You don't need to purchase every single color in the range. I mentioned my favorites and I will mention them again for you in the description. And if you have any more questions on this foundation, you can put them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye everyone.